Militarily Speaking, episode 81, American Legion.
This episode, we talk with Jeremy Eheart with American Legion.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking. This is Tom McLean and Jodi Vickery at Armed Forces Bank. I'm the military retail executive for the company, and Jodi, newly installed Chief Digital Officer.
At what point does it not have the new moniker on it?
18 years. Because speaking of 18 years.
Today is Tom's work anniversary, y'all.
18 years. So, Jeremy, I've lived in Kansas City since 2018. But I'm a Floridian and a Chicagoan. But man, when the Chiefs start winning, I started jumping the bandwagon. I did that with the Royals too early on.
What's that for, Tom?
Well, you're welcome to join our fan club.
Oh, there's room in it?
There's always room. There's always room.
Okay. I should start saying I've been a Royals fan and Chiefs fan since I was a little kid. That's all right.
Yeah. So again, we talked about no tangents today, Tom, and here we are 30 seconds in, and I'll keep going. Again, welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning about our guest, Jeremy Eheart. Jeremy, I do want to take just a moment and share with our audience a little bit of your bio. So bear with me. This is all
You're going to share all of your bio.
I am. I'm not going to edit it, alter it in any way. So hopefully what Tom gave me is true. And he didn't just make one up.
Jeremy will fact check it.
Yes, as he should. So Jeremy was born and raised in Kansas, graduating from Hutchinson High in 1998. He joined the United States Marine Corps Delayed Entry Program shortly after our nation was attacked on 9/11. He left for boot camp April 15, 2002, and his first duty station was to 2F1, an anti-terrorism unit in Yorktown, Virginia. He spent the first part of 2004 deployed, and he visited 4 other countries and several Pacific islands before eventually ending back in Virginia. In October of 2004, a training mission was held in California, which included his unit, and the DOE, another government agency. It was here that he suffered an injury that would change the course of his life forever. Instead of spending a career in the military, he would now be recovering from burns to over 70% of his body in San Antonio at Brooke Army Medical Center. After more than 5 months in the hospital and over 40 surgeries, he is finally released and allowed to continue his physical and occupational rehab as an outpatient. More than a year later, and still completing rehab, he is medically retired from the Marine Corps, and he is headed back home to Hutchinson, Kansas. Soon after, Jeremy and his wife, Christy, moved home. He joined the American Legion, which he credits for getting them out in the public and rejoining society in a positive manner. Having taken a leadership role in the local post, is it Lyle Rochelle? Did I say that right?
Lyle Rochelle.
Lyle Rochelle.
Well done.
Post 68 in Hutchinson, he again regained his passion for helping veterans, youth, and serving the community. After serving as the local post commander, he continued his desired passion for helping others at the American Legion district level, where he was in charge of helping 31 area legions with their programs and activities aimed at helping veterans and families. In 2022, he was elected as state commander for the American Legion after serving several years at other state positions. As the state commander, he was able to travel and help all 270 Legion posts throughout the state, helping with activities and talking with veterans of all ages and eras about their service. He spread his positivity around the state, all while talking about his own experiences to help end the stigma associated with veterans and mental health. He said his focus that year was to encourage American Legion family members, veterans, service members, and others to take action when they believe a veteran is at risk of suicide or in need of help. He continues to serve now as alternate National Executive Committee member and on several state and national committees, including serving as the vice chairman of the Be the One Mental Wellness Committee, which continues to promote and provide information for vets and their families struggling with mental health. Welcome, Jeremy. It is, I think it probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's an honor to have you on our show. We're really glad that you're here with us today. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe let's start out. American Legion is a well-known name, right? But I've bet there are a lot of people at large that have maybe heard of American Legion, but don't know beyond that how to think about what American Legion does. So maybe we could start with you just giving an overview of American Legion for our audience. And then I know Tom and I will have several questions for you today.
Sure. So pretty simply, the American Legion is the nation's largest veteran service organization, or VSO. We have about 1.6 million members. We live and we serve every community throughout the United States, as well as some communities overseas. It's really hard to simplify what we do because there are so many great programs, activities, and initiatives that we conduct throughout the nation. Everything from advocating for our veterans on Capitol Hill to preventing veteran suicides to helping military families in need, mentoring youth, honoring our veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice, especially here on Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you visited DC to do some advocacy on behalf of American Legion? Have you done that?
We do every February there at Washington. The American Legion holds something. It's called Washington Conference. So there's hundreds of American Legion members. We meet, we go through a couple days of meetings. We get our legislative priorities for the year. And then we spend a day going up and talking to our legislators on Capitol Hill about those priorities.
And Jeremy, we've had a lot of podcast guests over the years doing this and looking at your 2025 legislative priorities, especially of improving access to community care, ending veteran homelessness, and just the veteran suicide prevention that you mentioned too, is that it aligns with a lot of our guests over the years with our podcasts, that there are a lot of great organizations like American Legion that are doing good things to tackle some of the issues, including food insecurity, mental health, wellness, and a plethora of issues that we've had guests talk about and the resources available. So this ties in really nicely with your overall motto of Veterans Strengthening America. That makes it pretty cool to have you here with us today. So let's talk about what you're doing today when it comes to supporting you personally. Maybe you and Christy will go into a little detail too about what your wife's doing with the organization. And as I look back at an article that was written about you, and I think there was a video as well in 2017, when Christy says, it's just awesome to be part of something, right? That was the takeaway I had.
Right.
Probably you the same, Jeremy, but what's the why? You answer that probably, but the why is about why you support the organization. But talk about what your everyday life role is within the largest VSO in the world.
2017, boy, you brought that up, and that seems like so long ago now.
No, 8 years ago.
Yesterday and today all at the same time.
All at the same time, you're right.
Kind of like Tom's 18 years.
My why, and I appreciate you guys asking that, and I like that you guys ask your guests that, because everybody's why is just a little bit different. And my why, I guess, is broadened a little bit. But initially, when I got out of the Marine Corps, going from service where you woke up every single day and you knew what your objective was, you had a task every day, you were clear what it was, and you could complete that task. And then one day you get out and you have no objective. You're kind of lost. So that was one thing. You just felt you had no direction all of a sudden in life, especially out of the hospital. You know exactly what your occupational therapy or physical therapy is for the day, you know what your goal is, and you get out and you're kind of, what do I do? There was really no transition period coming out of the hospital. So that was one. And then of course you miss that camaraderie, you miss your people where you're a veteran first. And when I got out of the hospital, I was always a burn patient first, or I was injured first and a person second. So when I first stepped into the Legion, that was the first time in a while that I felt like a veteran first and a burn survivor or burn patient second. And I had a sense of purpose. They introduced a lot of programs. I actually became an American Legion writer, and that was my purpose. So it was nice to have a purpose and nice to have people again that I was comfortable around, that I could feel like a veteran again. So that was my why when I initially first joined. And like I said, it's broadened, and I've got some great mentors, got some great teachers, got some great friends here in Kansas, and they've taught me really what it means to continue service after service. So it's broadened beyond myself now, and I really appreciate serving veterans, serving my community now a whole lot more than I ever thought I would 18 years ago when I first signed up to be a member.
That's such a common theme. I mean, my husband served as well for 20 plus years, and you do miss that. I mean, it's all about that connection that you have with your unit, and then you get out and you don't have that. And I think it's wonderful that you found that with the American Legion. You mentioned that there are so many programs, I think, as part of that.
Yeah.
Are there some that you were just naturally gravitated towards, that are ones that you find yourself most passionate about? I mean, not to not to diminish in any way all of the numerous things that the American Legion does, but are there some that you're just personally drawn to based on your life experience?
Sure. There's a couple that I could talk about actually, and they're really, of course, meaningful to me. Of course, they both kind of deal with mental health just because I've had some issues and some struggles with that. But we know that veterans struggle with that every day. So, especially when they leave service, often they lack kind of purpose and direction, kind of like what I went into. And I was very fortunate to find my purpose in the American Legion. But those who have not yet found their purpose, they are more likely to have feelings of depression, anxiety, and sometimes even suicidal ideation. So the American Legion, they started to be the one mission, and it's credited with preventing veterans and service members from being lost to suicide. So we're constantly raising awareness that it's okay not to be okay. And we are encouraging any veteran in crisis to seek the help they need. Of course, we are encouraging our members to perform buddy checks, and that's just calling their fellow veterans, someone who they may have not heard from for a while, make sure that they're okay. We also partnered with Columbia University, and we offer free suicide prevention training to veterans, to their families, really to anybody who wants to take this training. And all of these components translate to the mission of Be the One. We are seeing a difference. The American Legion is changing lives, and we are saving lives by doing this. So I also want to talk about our veteran service officers. We have more than 3,000 accredited American Legion service officers. They provide free services to any veteran seeking help for their VA benefit claims. You have to be a Legion member to get this free service. So oftentimes veterans are intimidated or they're frustrated by the process it takes to receive their benefits. That paperwork is just frustrating and hard. Our service officers, they're trained to do the hard. They walk the veterans through this process. And I think last fiscal year, these VSOs, the veteran service officers, they secured over $21 billion for our veterans. And again, that's a free service. It doesn't cost anything for these veterans to talk to our VSOs. So that's just two great programs that we offer.
That's so important. I mean, I think people will get to the point sometimes when they don't know where to go for help on the benefit side of it, that they just give up. And so then they forego the benefits that are certainly based on the service that they provided to the country. So that's wonderful that you guys are doing that.
By the way, we have Henry Howard here, Deputy Director of Media and Communications for the American Legion. He may offer some additional color on other programs that we offer, but this is probably for both of you, if you want to tackle this one too. Suicide rates in the military, do you have any data points for maybe over the last 3, 5, 10 years? Because it's one of your missions, I figured you'd share with us how it's, in what direction it's moving.
I can answer that, but it's really hard to quantify that. We've seen estimates of 17 a day, 22 a day.
I heard that one just yesterday. I heard 22 a day at a event I was supporting. Yeah.
Yeah, and one is too many, right? And so that's why with our Be the One mission, that's really what we try to emphasize is saving the one life. If someone is in contact with a veteran, it could be a spouse, partner, sibling, parent, child, whoever, and you see that this person may be showing signs of depression or anxiety or suicide ideation, that's where the American Legion is trying to, as Jeremy said, reassure that it's okay to not be okay, but to find the help you need. And the American Legion is trying to do work through its advocacy and through communicating this message and also providing training so that, that's a really hard conversation to have for someone, right? Especially when it's a loved one. And so by empowering people to take this free 90-minute training that's done by professionals, we've already seen successes of lives being saved. And our past national commander has talked about the American Legion is changing lives and saving lives. And this is part of it, thanks to Jeremy and all of our members who are helping make this effort a reality.
Well done. Well said. Thank you for the extra background on it too. I feel like we should jump ahead to your next question just to keep them both on, since it's kind of segueing into that same topic.
Yeah, no, it kind of is actually. So we talked about suicide prevention. We also So we did just spend a little bit talking about suicide prevention. We're engaged here, as you are, on the topic of veteran homelessness, on things where you have to believe that advocacy and awareness can make an impact. And it's always astounding to us that those issues persist and that
And they're still prevailing and getting worse almost.
People just jumping to bring resources to bear on those two topics alone. How are you talking about the February event at Capitol Hill in DC? How are you tackling those issues? Are there resources that the American Legion makes available to folks like Tom and I, that if we want to jump on that bandwagon and also encourage our representatives to act on behalf of veterans and their families, but maybe we don't know how to do it? Are there resources that the Legion provides to help folks like us know how to do that as well?
Sure, there's tons of resources on legion.org for our legislative priorities. You can go to legion.org/action and see all of our current legislative priorities there. For our veteran homelessness issue, again, I encourage all of them to go see our VSOs or our veteran service officers. They can help with their benefits. And of course, hopefully that helps with their homelessness problem. And then for our Be the One mission, there's tons of resources. We actually have a betheone.org website, and there we have a ton of resources. They can print out brochures, they can see videos. There's other resources they can print out, and it's always being updated just because that mission is so critical.
Thank you.
So take me back to February when you're up there and you're sort of canvassing Capitol Hill. Is there an agenda and specific members of Congress that you target when it comes to maybe people by military installations? And you don't have to go into a lot of detail in that, Jeremy. Just curious about what agenda do you take there and how do you know you're being well received so they can help take action with you?
As a military spouse, I understand how unpredictable life can be. Whether it's a PCS move or just everyday expenses, money can be tight. That's why it's so important to have a checking account that works for you.
Armed Forces Bank offers our Access Freedom checking accounts designed with military families in mind. If you're looking for no monthly fees, early military pay, and no fee access to over 38,000 ATMs nationwide, we've got you covered. Plus, with our user-friendly mobile app, managing your money is a breeze, no matter where you're stationed.
And with about 75% of our team affiliated with the military, Armed Forces Bank really understands the challenges faced by the military and their families. We've been supporting military families for over 100 years, so you know we'll always have your back.
If you're ready for a checking account that's as flexible as you are, head over to afbank.com or visit a branch near you. Armed Forces Bank, serving those who serve. Member FDIC, $25 opening deposit and e-statements required. Direct deposit required for early military pay. Closing new accounts within 90 days of opening will result in a $25 early closure fee. Message and data rates charged by your mobile phone carrier may apply.
Sure. So actually, every state meets there. So we have about 10 or 12 people from the Department of Kansas. And we go through that priority list and we pick out what is most important to our department or what we think is most important to us. So we take about 5 or 6 of those priorities and we meet with our legislators, our congressmen and our senators, and we touch on those priorities. And I would assume that every department does about the same. So that way, communitively, we hit on all of those priorities.
Common message, common mission.
Yep.
I'm going to combine a couple of questions here about how people can get involved and support the American Legion, but also there are a lot of ways to join the American Legion, like join for community, join for a voice in our nation's capital, join for families, join for benefits. So talk about maybe just a message you want to give to our audience about, it's almost ways to volunteer, ways to give back, but ways to join. But it seems like no matter how you want to support the American Legion, there is a way to do that in a meaningful way.
There is, absolutely. So I was fortunate. When I came back, I had no interest in joining. I'll be honest, I had no interest in joining. And luckily somebody asked me to join. They convinced me to go to my local post. And I sat in a meeting and I joined that night. So if you are a member, you need to start asking people, because unless they're asked, sometimes they're not going to join. So I would first say, if you're a member, start asking people that you know that if they can belong, to belong. Secondly, if you are a veteran and you've thought about joining, just go to a local post, especially if you're interested in helping a youth program, if you're helping your community somehow, just walk in your local post, let them know that you're a veteran, that you want to join, that you want to help some specific program, and try and get involved. And I'll also say that if you walk in and you don't like the vibe of the place, you don't think it's a good fit, most communities have a couple posts, or there's usually a post close. Find a different post. And then if you can't find a local post, you can go to legion.org, and there's a tab where you can find a local post. So there's always resources to do that also. Find a post, walk in and be active.
Here's a trivia question, which is probably for Henry too, right? How many posts are there outside either the military or in communities around the country? And again, there might be gaps for you now, or there might not be one. It might be a population issue or just a geographic concentration issue of availability. But I got to believe it's more than 10, right?
Round up, Tom.
More than 1,000. Is there a number out there? I mean, if they're everywhere, if there's one or two in every community, then people can find you.
We have roughly 12,000 posts.
How close I was? Yeah.
10 is not close, Tom.
But you didn't go to the 1,000. It was edited out.
Well,
already.
1,000 is also not
No,
close.
10,000.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So 12,000. There's the number.
I'm going to bring forward a question I was going to ask later, but it ties right into this topic. So that's a way to encourage veterans to join and to serve and to be a part of American Legion. Are there ways for just generally patriotic Americans to help support the American Legion that might not be veterans, but they want to give back, they want to support the veteran community? Are there ways for them to do that through the American Legion?
Absolutely. We have volunteers at our post. You don't have to be a member to be patriotic. You don't have to be a member to help your community. There's always programs. The American Legion's always seeking support. And if you just want to help, if you want to be patriotic, if you want to walk in a parade, go walk into an American Legion post and ask how you can help.
I love that. I think there are a lot of good-spirited people in the world. I'm still maybe a little Pollyanna in my beliefs there, but I believe that there are.
More often than not, though, it's just getting the word out there.
Yeah.
It's how people find information. And
Agreed.
once they do, they give it their all. The American Legion is celebrating its 100th year. Is that a fact? 100th year? Has it been around that long? I didn't think I'd been playing baseball that long, but man, congratulations on that. So let's talk about American Legion and the baseball aspect of it, right?
Yeah, so the American Legion has been around since, well, the American Legion is older than 100 years. You're talking about the baseball program is turning 100 years this year.
Yeah. Well, the American Legion.
Were you on the inaugural team?
Give credit. I was the first shortstop in the American Legion history. But yeah, 100 years you're celebrating for the baseball, right?
Yes.
So talk about that and talk about why it's so successful.
Sure. So like I said, the baseball program started 100 years ago. It started in Millbank, South Dakota. And they started in July this year, 100 years ago. So throughout the years, there's been tens of thousands of teams that have played American Legion baseball. We had an American Legion baseball team right here in Hutchinson, Kansas when I was growing up. Many have played throughout the years, and many of those have went on to play in the American Legion major leagues. So, in fact, there's nearly 90 American Legion baseball alumni who are in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, including one of our very own Kansas City Royals stars, George Brett.
Oh, he was an American Legion player?
He was.
On George Brett.
I know.
Like when I first started
Yeah,
watching.
but we only remember one thing about him.
Ryan Tar.
Yeah, when he runs out of the dugout because he's just an angry man. Yeah, it was a cool clip. Yeah.
He's such a good player, and it's so sad that that's the only thing that we remember about George Brett was the pine tar.
But yeah, that's true. That's not very
I
good.
only wanted watching when I was a kid. My parents always got tickets from their work, so yeah.
And he's still active with baseball. So, yeah.
There's some current players that are still playing that are alumni also. Jacob deGrom, Bryce Harper, Justin Verlander. There's several others.
So your homework, Tom, is to find out if there are any of your beloved Cubs that used to play.
Yeah. Jeremy, are there any Cubs?
You know, if I knew that you were a Cubs fan, I would have done my research before this.
All right, well,
It's good for Tom to have to do that though, because it'll keep him busy for 3 or 4 hours.
I'm punting. I'm giving it back to Jeremy or Henry to find out if there's any cub belongs.
I have a good one for you.
Go.
Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah.
I have 3 jerseys and 6 autographs from him. Yeah. And my brother, the sports writer, did a feature story on him years ago too. So Kevin Bacon was not there. I know. A little teary-eyed because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually have
That one. Yeah, that's a good question.
and I probably should have asked this earlier when we were talking about the work you're doing with benefits. And I probably got distracted because I was thinking about the maze that I watched my husband try to navigate as he worked to secure his when he retired and transitioned to civilian life. But aside from the just simply helping them, connecting them with your service officers to help them know how to get from point A to point B, what other just general encouragement do you give folks to not give up on that process, to stick it out, to stay in there until they get the benefits that are rightly due them? Because I mean, that can be draining, it can be frustrating. So what words of encouragement or advice might you give somebody who's in the midst of that right now, other than, of course, connect with the VSO through American Legion to help navigate those waters? But what's your message of stick to it? It's worth it for them.
Well, stick to it. It's worth it. No, I think that's where the camaraderie and the brotherhood really comes in. We call it buddy checks. It's part of the Be the One mission. Just be there to talk with them. Sometimes it's just you have to be that shoulder for them to cry on or vent to or open up with. And sometimes that's part of what they need too, is they just need someone who has similar experiences to vent to. And sometimes that ventilation or that frustration, that sitting there talking to somebody, that'll get them through a rough time while they're waiting for the paperwork to get through, or while they're waiting for an opportunity to open up. So if nothing else, just be there and support them, and support them with camaraderie, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think that maybe encourage them to have confidence that the process will eventually play out perhaps as it should. I know I've heard folks talk about they're removed from their transition out of service, that they got certain benefits, maybe they got disability benefits, and they have discovered certain other ailments that might cause them to be eligible for more, but they're honestly afraid to go back and try to work through that for fear that what they do have will be diminished or taken away. And so I think just having expertise like the American Legion provides to help guide them through that is so important. So important.
www.legion.org. I spent an hour out there and I still wasn't fully completed looking at all the resources you have out there. So I encourage people to go there because there's the advocacy work, the history, just the name, the brand you've built over the years, and the resourcefulness is amazing out there. So go to that website. So Jodi and I love to hear stories though, because those usually resonate with our audience about a story. Since you've been supporting and active with the American Legion, Jeremy, is there a story or two that comes to mind that where it helps advance the mission of that, or just something personally that you want to tell our audience?
Sure. And I think the biggest story that comes to mind is, and I'll tell it from, I guess, my family's point of view, but it's probably my personal story. And I don't know if that sounds self-serving or not, but yeah. So I will tell you the story of, and from my family's perspective, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So you kind of read it in my bio, but very quickly I graduated in 98, didn't really have direction in my life. And in a roundabout way, several years after high school, I ended up joining the Marine Corps after 9/11. Actually went in 2002 on tax day, went in anticipating a career in the Marine Corps. That was not my plan to have, and somebody else had a different plan for me. So October 28th of 2004, I was injured. That was 5 days after my 25th birthday. So that was a great birthday present for turning 25. But after 5 months in the hospital and another year and 5 months of inpatient occupational and physical therapy, we moved home and moved back to Hutchinson. And I was completely fine just living in the darkness and never stepping foot outside, never seeing anybody, just withering away into nothing, because that was it. You know, there's something to be said from being a 25-year-old thinking that you're invincible to looking in the mirror the first time and saying out loud, holy smokes, I'm a freaking monster, and just wanting to give up on things. So when we moved home, I was okay just giving up on things. And like I said, I was very fortunate to have a couple people that asked my wife, actually, Christy, if we would go to the American Legion. And we did. She somehow drugged me there one meeting night. And when we walked in, it was a very nice feeling to be a veteran first or a person first, and a sideshow second for a change. And at the time, I didn't realize how much I missed that feeling until I was there.
Well, it was the right time, wasn't it?
It was definitely the right time.
You know, if it was 16, 18 months later and you found it, thank goodness, right?
Somebody was looking out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we joined that night, and the rest is history. So it was definitely the right time. You said that correctly.
Seems like it was such a goodness that you found them. And I think hearing all the good work that you're doing for the American Legion, I think it's their good fortune that they found you as well.
It's almost like it was just calling once you walked in those doors, right? That he's going to spread the word and support and save some lives in the same breath. Wow, I've got nothing. I'm beyond my full capacity. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your story, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I know time has passed, but I'm sure it's brings it up every time you do. So I'm grateful that you've shared that with our audience today. And I'm also very grateful that you're here today. I would offer you, if there's something that Tom and I haven't thought to ask,
Just stop it. Stop.
about the American Legion that you think it's really important that our audience hears, that maybe we didn't know to ask or and haven't covered today, I'd love to give you the opportunity to share anything along those lines before we wrap up for the day.
No, I think you have done a great job asking questions. I would just encourage people to go to legion.org and look up all the great information.
Agreed. It's magnificent. You got whoever's designed your website and put the content out there. It's really good.
Easy to find things.
I got to do another. Let me do another trivia question. Do you have a podcast called Tango Alpha Lima?
We do indeed.
And so, am I in competition with you? Are we in competition with you?
Very cool. Tango Alpha Lima. You heard it here first.
TAL. Yeah. So let's play a game.
Yes. This is different than the random trivia that Tom has been throwing at you.
This is a real game.
This is our real military minute game. We always try to fashion questions after our guests. And so on our last podcast, our military minute was a question about the history of the cell phone, because we had a guest on that helped provide
Cell phones for soldiers.
Cell phones for soldiers that provided cell phone service and access to soldiers. It's the name, among many other things.
And they were 12 and 13 when they started it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the question last podcast, which you can totally answer this if you know it, but I wouldn't have known it. So
Yes, you
zero
can.
pressure. Not without Google. In what year was the first public mobile phone call, and by what company? Can you guess this?
Tough question.
It is. Yeah, this is one of those random, without Google, nobody would know.
No.
Tom. So I'll help you out. It was 1973. So predates me barely. And the company.
La, 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 la.
La, 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 la.
I was in American Legion at the time. Yeah.
You were in the baseball.
I was playing short shots.
Yeah.
Yes.
1973 by Motorola. So if you were in our audience and that was your awesome answer last time, watch for your name to be announced as the winner of $50 for yourself and $50 to a charity of your choice. And then fast forward to this week's Military Minute. Now, neither of you can answer this because you very likely could know it.
I'm going to say both of them know it.
Probably, but if they do, they can't answer. And this week's Military Minute takes us to a question about the American Legion, oddly enough. Which president's son started the American Legion in 1919? Everybody's nodding and smiling, so our guests are well versed in their history.
So I did the math on that, right? They've been around longer than the American Legion baseball.
Well,
Right.
good job, Tom.
Isn't that awesome?
Good job. So if you know that answer, which president's son started the American Legion in 1919? When this podcast drops, make sure you comment your correct answer. Don't give us a bad answer. Give us your correct answer. And then after that, you also could be the lucky winner of $50 for yourself or $50 for a charity of your choice. There you have it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes.
Thank you also, Henry, for joining. We appreciate all the good stories, good work that you're doing. And we thank you for your service more
Most
and more.
definitely. Most definitely.
Can't say it any more than that because words will never describe how we feel about what you've done for our country. So thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, go to afbank.com, subscribe to this show. Since Jeremy knows where our podcast is available, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. It's been a great experience with you. So thank you.
Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as IRS.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo.